Okay, and then again we have the neuropsychological examination. Okay, so these are the various tools are there which are used by the psychologist to do the diagnosis. So these techniques and tools, they vary from time to time. These techniques and tools, in order to identify the diagnosis, they are based on the context and the purpose of assessment. What kind of a assessment you are going to do? Is it an intellectual disability, or it is like anxiety, or it is like a depression? And they vary greatly. The inventory which is developed like 30 years, 40 years back, it may not be relevant today. So it will be varying. And nowadays, like initially it was a paper pencil. Nowadays it is quite easy to conduct the test on computer, and now we do have the mobiles. So it is very easy. Age of the assessed subject, the person on whom you want to administer the inventories or this diagnosis, the age of that person also need to be considered. Okay, the techniques and tools will be based on the age. Okay, all tools, all types of questions are not appropriate for all types of age. So these techniques and tools greatly vary depending on the age of the subject as well. Type of possible difficulties, the assess of the assessed subject. If the assessed subject is having some difficulty, then that also need to be taken into the consideration while selecting the techniques and tools for diagnosis. Now there are two terms you will often come across when you will talk about a diagnosis, that is the assessment and testing. These are the two separate, but they are related. Okay, they are related components of psychological evaluation. These are a different, but they are related with each other. Sometimes we use these terms interchangeably, assessment and testing. Most of the people think that it is like one and the same thing, but it is not. Okay, testing is only one type of assessment tool. So testing is a subset of assessment. The assessment covers a broader range of procedures than testing. So assessment is a broader, and under which the testing is there. So testing is a part of assessment. Assessment is a larger picture. So what is the difference in assessment and testing? This question is important from your exam point of view. So assessment is what? Gathering and integration of psychology related data. And why we are gathering and compiling this psychology related data? To make the psychological evaluation, and that is what the assessment. As far as testing is concerned, so process of measuring psychology related variables by means of some device or procedure. So understand the difference here. The process of measuring the psychology related variables, you are just measuring any one variable with the help of testing, but here you are gathering and integrating, and you are making the psychological evaluation. Okay, psychological evaluation of a person. Each assessment involved various procedures and dimensions. So in one assessment you may have the multiple procedures and dimensions. Okay, and testing involves one procedure, and this is normally unidimensional. Testing of a one variable with one testing method. whereas here you are using the multiple. It combines and evaluate all information about individual. Maybe you will do the intelligence test, you will do the personality test. So you will combine intelligence, personality, depression, anxiety, all you will do the combination, and then you will assess about the individual. It provide only a part of a picture, either intelligence or personality or depression, anyone. But here you will combine all, and you will try to portray the psychological picture of that person. Assessment is seen as a procedure instead of a product. Assessment is not a product, assessment is a procedure. Whereas the test is a product that measures a particular behavior or set of objectives. That's what a testing. Assessment is typically individualized. One person, you will do the assessment. Whereas testing is done on the individual or group. Say for example, personality test. I may administer that on 100 participants at a time in a group. But assessment is typically done on a one individual person. It provides qualitative as well as quantitative data. That is the textual data plus numbers. And this provide only numbers. So that's what a difference between the assessment and a testing. This is one of the important question from your exam point of view. Okay, people are still joining. I need to admit them. Yes. Okay, fine. So, see the clinical psychologist. Okay, they are often asked to make the recommendation regarding the client's ability to function in everyday activities. If some abnormality is there in a person, okay, then we normally consult the clinical psychologist, okay, and we ask them, to do the recommendation to assess, to check and recommend whether this person can functional normally or not. So this combination of observations, assessment and self report. Observation by clinical psychologist in a natural setting most of the time, assessment and the self report like a questionnaires. With the help of this, with the help of combination of all this, psychologists make prediction about client's ability to return to normal life. How severe the problem is. If problem is mild, then it is easy to return to normal life. If problem is severe, then it is difficult to return to normal life. And all these predictions, all these decisions are based on the combination of observation, assessment, and self report. Based on this, the clinical psychologists predict. The number of clinical tests available, and that can be divided into the personality test we have, neurological test we have, and we have the general mental ability test. So the clinical test largely classified into personality test, neurological test, and general mental ability test. The psychological test, mostly questionnaires, scale, inventory. These are the synonyms. Okay, this enables clinical psychologists to make diagnosis more reliably, validity, and quickly. Like they are fast, they are reliable, you can trust, and they are valid means they are correct. Okay, as compared to personal observation and other methods. So psychological tests are widely used because they are trustworthy, they are correct, and they are faster as compared to other methods. Test can also uncover the problems that a psychologist may not be able to detect. The problem, the mental health issue, which is not like, detectable by psychologists, that can be uncovered with the help of this psychological test. Psychological test allows the clinical psychologist to focus on appropriate treatment more quickly, and in this way the client can save the time and money. This psychological test this allowed to diagnose the problem, the severity, whether it is a mild or severe. So once the diagnosis is done by the clinical psychologist, then he or she can start the treatment immediately. These tests are like a trustworthy, as we discussed, correct, and quick. So we can start the treatment immediately. That will save the time and money, and obviously the problem will not deteriorate further. Immediate treatment can be start. Psychological tests are also used to monitor a person's response to treatment. Understand one thing, like if person is having a depression, say for example day 1 the treatment start, and then this treatment will go for 1 month for example, and then again we can perform the test and check the person's response to treatment, whether treatment is effective or not. In research we are calling it as a pre-test and post-test. So today we'll do the depression test for example, and then we'll see the level of the depression. Let's say for example it is like a 70, and then 1 month treatment, and then it comes down to 50. Okay, so treatment is effective for example. So these psychological tests are also used to monitor the effectiveness of the treatment, or whether the client or patient is responding to treatment or not. That also we can check that with the help of this test. There are various domains of psychological assessment, so we'll see one by one. Performance variable, and the second one is personality variable. What is performance variable? Measure of maximum behavior a person can maintain. For example, intelligence test. Intelligence test is a measure of maximum intelligence the person is having, the capability of the person. That's what a performance variable. What is personality variable? Measures of a typical style of behavior. For example, a trait anxiety. The typical style of behavior, the personality or a depression or anxiety, these are the behavior of the person. So we try to measure with the help of this psychological assessment, we try to measure the performance variable as well as personality variable. This performance variable includes measure of sensory process, perceptual aptitudes, measures of attention and concentration, psychomotor aptitudes, measure of learning and memory, measures of different aspect of creativity, whether person is creative or not, and measure of social competence, assessment of cognitive performance and intelligence. How, what is the capability of thinking pattern of the person, or what is the intelligence, what is the IQ, what is the emotional quotient, like that you can measure, like emotional intelligence, and the assessment of language proficiency. These are the various performance variable which we can measure. Personality variable includes motivation, structure, and interest of the person. Assessment of primary factor of personality. What is the style of daily living? Pastime and life goals of the person. Assessment of stress tolerance and stress coping. Assessment of incisive life event. Okay, so these are the various personality variables which we can measure with the help of a test. Now, when we are doing a testing, the psychological test, when we perform a psychological test, we are collecting the various data, and we have a various forms of a data. So you can see here data sources for psychological assessment. What are the data sources? So behavior trace, how the person is behaving over a period of time. So we do the analysis of that. Behavioral observation of the person, actuarial and biographical data, behavior ratings, and expressive behavior. So majority of these are like related to behavior. Plus we do have the projective techniques, like psychological test broadly classified into objective test and subjective test. Under subjective test there is a projective technique, and under our objective projective technique is like a Rorschach, TAT, CAT, ink bolt. Those are, like a projective techniques. And in objective we do have this questionnaire scale. Those are the objective. Going forward we'll be talking about all this in a detail. Interview, data source, one of the data source is a interview. Psychophysiological data, MRI, PET CT, okay, CT scan. These are the various psychophysiological data. We are going to see that now only. Objective test I already told you, and the questionnaires. So these are the various data sources for psychological assessment. This question they normally ask for 10 marks. One of the most important question from your exam point of view. Now we'll try to see all these things in a detail, one by one. Behavioral trace. So physical traces of human behavior like handwriting specimen. Handwriting, with the help of handwriting you can do the psychological analysis of the person. Okay, so we can do the psychological analysis of a person with the help of handwriting. So handwriting is like, behavioral trace. Products of art and expression, the way person is drawing. Okay, most of the time we use this technique with the children. We allow them to express through the drawing, and we can trace the behavior. We can find out more about the children or his past through the drawing. Leftovers after playing in a children's playground, that also talks a lot about the psychology of the person. Style of self devised living environment at home. Okay, what is the living environment at the home? That is also comes under behavioral traits. Attributes of person, appearance and attire, how person looks, how person appears, that also talks about the behavior. Observations are like a direct observations, and observations are like a describing an operational classification of human behavior. Okay, describing the human behavior, an operational classification. So these are like observations of human behavior. Behavioral observation, that is one of the method of data collection, and it talks like behavioral observation. We have this behavior of autistic child in a playground setting. You can go, like clinical psychologists go and observe how autistic child is behaving in a playground. So one can do that study by natural observation. Monitoring the behavior of unconscious patient on 24-hour basis. The patient normally who are unconscious, who are in coma. So we do the 24-hour observation to check if any sign is given by the patient or not. Observing the trainee's performance. A newly joined trainee, they are under observation, and their superiors, they observe the behavior of those trainees. Self monitoring of mood swing by the psychotherapy patient. Self monitoring, here the patient will do the monitor himself or herself only. Next one is the behavior rating assessment. So in this, what we do, we ask the patient or client to evaluate their behavior and the behavior of others. We ask them to evaluate your behavior and others' behavior with respect to the characteristics given, judgmental scale or checklist item. Characteristic, like how person is behaving, whether the behavior is positive or negative, whether behavior is cooperative or not cooperative. So whatever the characteristic is given, based on that one can evaluate. Judgmental scale, like a Likert scale, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, just make a judgment on the scale. And checklist item. Checklist item means, this person is neat and clean, yes. Okay, so whatever the checklist items are given, we can just make a tick if it is present. If it is absent, we can make a cross. If person is looking like a normal, then you can say yes. If person is like the peach, or the, the speech, is there any variation in the sound in the speech, like that, there will be the checklist, depending upon whatever the characteristic is under study. Based on this, one can do the behavior rating. Expressive behavior, this refers to the variation in the way in which person may look, talk, move or express. their current state of emotion, feeling and motive. How person is expressing, how person is looking, talking, moving or giving the expression, okay, based on their emotions, feelings and motives. So this data is collected and it is like a expressive behavior. Actuarial and biographical data. So in this we try to collect the education record, marital status, age, type, year of schooling of the person, professional records, their job profile and everything, medical records. People are still joining. Yeah. Current employment, criminal record if it is there, position held in the past, life history, and the leisure activity. Okay. So these are the like a actuarial and biographical data. Projective techniques. Okay. So in projective techniques like induce a person to express their perception, okay, on this ambiguous stimulus material. So we have the ink board which is having the various images, and this images we show to the person and we ask he what they see. The Rorschach test and the ink bowl test, they are like a projective techniques, and with the help of this ambiguous images, this ambiguous stimulus material, we try to understand the psychology of the person. In projective technique, people willingly or unwillingly, whether they are interested or not interested, uncovering their individuality, including their motives and emotion that they themselves may not be aware of. Like when I will see the inkbolt image, now I will see that image based on whatever is going in my mind, subconscious, unconscious mind. I will see those things in that image and I will give the response like that. And my responses will be evaluated by the psychologist, and that will uncover the individual, uncover my motives and my emotions which are like the suppressed, which are there in back of my mind in an unconscious state. Those will come on the surface through with the help of this projective techniques. Most of the time the people are also not aware about this, these emotions, these unconscious thoughts, motives. All those will come on the surface with the help of this projective techniques. Projective technique is like an indirect method of assessment. Here the clues, here the clues are offered to the unconscious processes. Okay, the unconscious processes, it gives the clues of that processes, unconscious processes. Next technique is an interview technique. This technique is used by psychologists to increase the understanding of the patient. In interview technique, obviously there will be two people, one who will take the interview, normally the psychologist, and another one is the patient. So psychologist will ask the question and patient will reply. Interviewer and interviewee. And then whatever the psychologist want to know, psychologist will keep asking this in the interview technique, and he will try to get the maximum information about the patient. And this the information which is collected by the interview technique, this will help the psychologist to understand the patient. And this is like a direct data collection. Direct, you are asking the patient and he is giving the answer directly. This interview is like a heart of therapeutic process because it gives you the first hand information, and this help to make the diagnosis. This will help for treatment, and this will also help to take the other decision related to the patient and his mental condition. We do have the various types of interviews. Number one is a structured interview. In structured interview, particular sets of predetermined questions are there, and those questions are asked in that sequence only. There is no deviation from that. Questions are fixed, question pattern is fixed, and the sequence of question is also fixed, and one will answer accordingly. Unstructured, in this the questions are not prepared in advance. No set of question is ready. No sequence is there. Whatever the respondent will give the answer, based on that, new question will be formed and that question will be asked. And then we have the semi-structured. Semi-structured is combination of the structured as well as unstructured. So in semi-structured interview, certain questions are ready with me and certain questions are like, based on how conversation goes on. That's a semi-structured interview. And then we do have the questionnaire also. Questionnaire is like a multiple choice response format. How do you feel today? Like very good, good, neutral, bad, very bad. So five options are there, Likert scale. That's a multiple choice. So questionnaire is like a structured interview. In the questionnaire, the questions are fixed and the sequence of the question is also fixed. In questionnaire, we ask a series of questions. Series of questions are there which help us to collect the data, collect the information about the patient, about the person. Questionnaires are normally standardized. They present the same question in the same order to multiple people. That's a standardized. Same question, same order to number of people. That's what a questionnaire. Questionnaire data, that's assessment data about the mental representation of behavior variation in a person's self perception and self cognition. So, the assessment data, the data what you are collecting through questionnaire is about the mental representation of the behavior of the person, self perception and self cognition. Cognition means thought process, memory, and all those things will come in that. Next one is the objective test. Objective test is a structured and objective test typically use questionnaire. Okay, and the questions and items are carefully chosen. We choose the questions very carefully in this questionnaire. The question should be in such a way that it should help us to assess the trait or the state or the variable which is understood. For example, I want to know the intelligence of the person. So my questions, my items in the questionnaire should help me to assess the intelligence of the person. So my question should be in that direction so that I can find out the intelligence level of the person. Psychological, sorry, psychophysiological assessment. This procedure provides the wealth of information about body responses, how the body react in various situations, psychologically and physiologically. Okay, in any given situation, how our body act. So that is what the psychophysiological assessment. Changes in the body are associated with psychological and emotional. Okay, so what psychological experiences or emotional experiences are there, so that make the changes in our body. Like what changes? The heart rate, the muscles, skin, and the breath. Like sometimes we have the goosebump. So that's what the skin is responding to the psychological experience. Heart rate, heartbeat is increasing, blood pressure increases. Certain part of a brain get activate when you feel anxiety. So these are the psychophysiological, you know, assessment. So we have the EEG, MRI, and fMRI. So what is this EEG? EEG basically measures the electrical activity in the brain. Like our brain is consist of like a neuron network, and lot of neurotransmitters are migrating from one synapses to another synapses, and it build a network. So a lot of activities are happening in the brain, and those activities are captured by EEG. Long form you can see in your brain, sorry, in your like book, it is there. I'm not going currently into that. MRI, it construct the picture of living brain. It checks the status of the brain, current status of the brain. fMRI, F stand for functional. So it construct a picture of activity in the brain. It checks like in MRI, it construct a picture of a living brain. And fMRI, activity in the brain is captured by the fMRI. Oh, I think in next presentation I put the picture. So these are the various data collection types of data what we have collecting for the psychological assessment. Okay, for the diagnosis. Now see the practical applications of this diagnosis, assessment of intelligence. We use this psychodiagnostic in order to assess the intelligence. Psychological assessment and assessment in vocational guidance, testing, and job selection placement. Nowadays, psychological tests are widely used by HR in order to select the candidate, and the intention is obviously choosing the right candidate for the right position. So these are the practical applications of the test. Psychological assessments are widely used in a testing of intelligence and aptitude of the person. Psychological assessment we are using to check the intelligence, aptitude, depression, anxiety, emotional intelligence, so many things. Number of inventories are there to check this. Psychological assessments are used for personality variables to assess the personality of a person. Behavior disorders. The behavior disorder of the person is also like we are checking with the help of this assessment. And specific symptom symptomatologists. So specific symptoms, if you want to check the specific symptoms of the particular disease, mental illness, we can use the psychological assessment for the same. So these are the various applications, okay, of psychological assessment. We already discussed it is normally used for selection of a person for a particular job. The psychological test, they also assist in discovering whether the applicant has certain essential qualifications for the kind of work they will perform. Whether the candidate, the person, okay, do they have the certain qualities to perform a particular job. So psychological tests are also used to check the competency also. Psychological assessments, they are also effectively used to check out the undesirable, to just remove the people who are not desirable in a selection process for a particular post. To reduce the amount of labor turnover, if you select the wrong person for the job, then obviously that person is unfit, and after some time the person will leave the company, and in this way the labor turnover will increase. So this psychological assessment, they help us to reduce the labor turnover, attrition we called it, to secure the employer a higher grade of employee. Obviously the best employees we can select with the proper psychological assessment. Okay, so this is what your unit number 1. Yes. Okay. This PPT is not available for printing. You can see that in the app. Those who paid for the course, today you will see the two PPTs. Those who purchase the course, they will see the all 16 unit PPTs. Okay. So yes, guys, if you have any question, you can ask, or else we'll move to the next presentation, chapter number 2. Yes. You have any question, any doubt? Yes. Yes, Sajjan.
सर ये जो टेस्ट की बात हो रही है ये पहले से क्वेश्चनेयर या
No.
टेस्ट पहले से डिजाइन है सर या फिर मतलब ये जो साइकोलॉजिस्ट है तो खुद डिजाइन करते हैं सर.
Standard inventories, standard tests are readily available. Some are free of cost, some are on a chargeable basis. You can use that. Or if a clinical psychologist need, they can also develop the new psychological test. Both are possible. If you are developing a new, then it is important, it is mandatory to check the reliability and validity of that test. Okay.
ओके
Yeah.
सर, थैंक यू सर.
Yes, Shabana, as you joined the late, so all recordings will be there. Like today, once the session is over, this recording will be available in the course which you purchase, and that recording will be there till your June exam. Like depending what you purchase. If you purchase for June exam, it will be there till June exam, and if you purchase for December, you can see the PPTs and the recording till December exam. Both things are possible. Yes. Yeah, please ask. Nazar, I think Nazar raised the hand. Shamna Nazar, you have any question? You can ask.
Good evening,
No,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
Accidentally, I.
yes, yes, Nazar. Suresh, please wait. Yes, Nazar, please
Sir,
ask.
good evening, sir. Sir, can I
Yeah. Oh,
take a print through downloading the PPT?
no, no, no. PPT you can see in the mobile only, in the app.
Okay, there is no facility to
Today's
download and take a print.
no, 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 no.
Okay, okay.
This today's session recording and PPT will be available in Mission MAPC. So one can, if you are registered in Mission MAPC, you can see the PPT and recording of today's session.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
Nasser. Yeah. Okay. I believe we have taken care of the questions. Yeah. In app also there is no question. So we'll skip this presentation and we'll go to the chapter number 2. I'm presenting this to the app. Stop presenting and I'm sharing this presentation in the app. Yes, in the app it is visible, and now I'm shifting the presentation in Google Meet. Yeah, I'm sharing this with the people. Yes, now I believe the Google Meet also, these people can also see this presentation. Okay. Yes, all well. Yes. Okay, let's go. So the chapter number 2, methods of behavioral assessment. So this is a unit 1, sorry, block 1, unit 2, methods of behavioral assessment. So we'll be talking about this. Okay. So today we'll see the 2 units and then we'll stop today. Tomorrow we'll see block 1, unit 3 and unit 4. That we'll see tomorrow. Just before going, this entire 16 units we are giving at 660 rupees only. If you want to appear for June exam, and for December exam you can pay only 720 rupees for December exam, and you can have this live session for a week which started today, and you can have the access to PPT and recordings in app. Today it is a free session, so on a Google Meet it is there. Tomorrow onwards the session will be conducted in app only. That app is a spring season study. It is a Android app, Play Store plus iOS. It's available. Fine. So let's discuss this methods of behavioral assessment. Okay, so behavioral assessment methods, they are used in the field of psychology to observe the behavior, to predict the behavior, to explain the behavior, to describe the behavior, and yes, to correct the behavior. So behavioral assessment, understand one thing, in mental illness the problem most of the time is of a behavior only. The behavior of the person is not normal. So we do the behavioral assessment in which we observe the behavior. Sometimes we predict the behavior. Sometimes we explain the behavior, why the person is behaving in this particular way. What's the reason behind that? Description of this behavior. And yes, if behavior is in negative, so we need to correct the behavior to the positive. So these are the various methods. Okay. Sorry. There are the various methods used in the field of psychology for behavior. Just a minute, let me correct this. The font is not correct here for the correct. Yes, now it is correct. So behavioral assessment focus on the interaction between situations and behaviors for the purpose of effecting behavioral change. The positive behavior change, we try to focus on interaction between the situation and the behavior. Behavioral assessment focus on what person does, what person is doing, that is most important, rather than what actual the person is. We are not bothered about what person is behavior, we are bothered about what person is doing, what person does. We focus on that, because what person does is his behavior. The underlying principle of behavioral assessment is that past behavior is a valid predictor of future behavior. So whatever we did in the past, history repeats. In the same way, behavior also repeats. So how we behave previously, based on that, it is easy to predict how we will behave in the future. Behavioral assessment is useful in clinical, educational, and corporate settings. The main goal of behavioral assessment is behavior change. Negative behavior convert into the positive behavior. So that is the main aim of behavioral assessment. Various behavioral assessment methods are there. They are broadly classified into self-report methods and direct observation. So self-report methods again classified into interview, questionnaire, rating scale, and direct observation, they are classified, sub-classified into natural observation, analog, and self-monitoring. These are the various behavioral assessment method, and we need to study all these 6 types of methods. So you can see here, its pink color is bit lighter. Let me change this to the dark one so that you can see it clearly. Yes. See, this direct observation, natural setting, and analog setting is like a direct assessment, and self report, rating, interview, questionnaire, they are like a indirect assessment. So we'll see the self report, then we'll see interview, questionnaire, and rating scale, and then we'll shift to this side. In clinical context, the best way to find out what troubles the client, where the client is facing the problem, and the best way is to ask them, ask directly, what troubles you most, where is the problem, what is the problem. Self report is the context which undertakes such inquiry. Self report, ask the client, ask them directly to find out what troubles the client. That's what a self report. Self report method, a person is asked a list of traits and characteristics, describe him or her. We ask the person, okay, to list the traits and characteristics which describe him, that I am a happy person, Sometime I feel sad, I am optimistic. Okay, so this kind of a characteristics or trait person can enlist. Strength of self-report method. The self-report method, the strength are here we get the precise answer to the standardized question. Questionnaire. Inventories are objective, can be completed very quickly. Normally, questionnaire, interview, normally it happens very fast. This is very economic. In 15 to 20 minutes, one can finish everything. It is having a good validity, and you can always, you know, replicate this. It means this method is a reliable method. So, this method is a reliable, valid, economic. You can do it very fast. Okay, so these are all the benefits of self report inventory. This is the strength of self report inventory. Weaknesses. The subject can lie intentionally and fake the personality traits. As this is like a self report, so person can give the fake response as well. They can lie. People might state what they wish were true. Socially desirable answers can be given by the person. The answers which they wish were true rather than what actually is true. Another problem in a questionnaire, they don't understand the question. Sometimes the respondent, they don't understand the question. So if question is not understood properly, then there's a good possibility that a wrong answer will be there. People sometimes don't remember the aspect of experience they are asked about. Whatever happened, like if I take a questionnaire for corona, so people they may not remember the aspect of whatever they experienced 4 years back. Some cases, some tests are very long and tedious, and people don't enjoy that. Don't enjoy means they don't take the interest, and obviously if interest is not there, so seriousness will not be there. That's what we discussed, the self report methods. Now we'll be talking about the interview method, then questionnaire, and then rating scale. Like this we'll be discussing all. The behavioral interview is the first step in the assessment process. The moment client comes, you will interact with the client, psychologist will interact with the client, and that interaction is nothing but the behavioral interview. So this interview set the foundation for future interaction with the client throughout the assessment and throughout the treatment. Two phases. First, psychologist will do the assessment of the client, and then psychologist will do the treatment of the client. So this behavioral interview sets the foundation for the future interaction. So this behavioral interview is an integral part of behavioral assessment and therapy. Interviewing provides an opportunity to directly observe the client's behavior. When the psychologist is taking the interview of the client, psychologist is doing two things. Number one, he is listening the answer. Number two, he is observing the body language. So direct interaction, the verbal interaction, and indirect interaction is through body language. So in the interview, it provides the opportunity to psychologists to observe the behavior of the client as well. This interview method used to collect the information on general functioning of the person, cognitive functioning, thinking process, and specific problem areas, if any. The goal of the behavioral interview is to gather the information and to help conceptualize the problem behavior and the context around the behavior. To help conceptualize the problem behavior, what is a problem? What is a problem? Like, the where is the problem in the behavior and the context around that behavior, the responsible factors for that behavior, the reason for that behavior. Obviously, the behavior will be negative. That's why the person is sitting in front of a psychologist. So, what's a problematic behavior? Number one. Number two, what are the reason behind that behavior? And once this basic is clear, this assessment is done, then the treatment will start to, you know, migrate the person from negative behavior to positive behavior. Clinical psychologists use behavioral interview to objectively identify the problem areas and treatment plans. So, problem area, assessment, and the treatment planning. And both are obviously related. Based on the assessment, treatment will be there. That's what we discuss about the interview, and the next one is a questionnaire. Questionnaires can be easily and economically administered. Okay, so it's easy to administer that. One important thing, see, as you can understand, we put lot of efforts to make this structures. We avoid the paragraph and sentences because I believe sometime we lost in the sentences. So we make this structure so that you can interlink the, you can connect the dots, you can interlink the concepts, and you can understand it in a better way. The content is taken from your book only, but we just put it in a structure. As you can understand, this is a crash course. So here our aim is to clear the important concepts. Okay, important concepts, important topics from exam point of view, and which are in general important, like a base foundation of the subject. We take care of that also. Some topics are important but not asked in the exam. We consider those topic also in the session. Okay, what is expected from you? That once the session is over, this PPT will be made available to you. So we want you to read the PPT and then read the book. This PPT, this structure will make you understand the content of the book. Aim of this classes, aim of this session is your concept should be clear. But in exam, you need to write the 450 word answer, 250 word answer, and 100 word answer. Those answers you will not get in the PPT. So you need to link this PPT with your book so that you can write this answer. So here you understand the concept, then go and read the book. That will make your understanding perfect, and you will be able to write the answer in the exam. We also want you to use these structures in your assignments. Make a use of this structure. Instead of writing paragraphs only, make this kind of a structure in your assignment that will give the face to your answer. And we believe once you start linking these PPTs with your book, you can make your own structures also. It is not a rocket science. The moment you start making your own structure, it becomes easy for you to connect the dots, to understand the concept, to write the answer in the exam. And use these structures in your assignment. That will give the face to your assignment. An evaluator will think that you put the efforts to write the assignment, to read the content. So please make a maximum use of this. You can use this PPT in your assignment also, for your understanding also, and this will be the great source of revision for your exam. If you just quickly go through the PPT, that will make easy understanding for you during the exam. Okay, so in questionnaire, this requires the test takers to answer the specific written question. So what happens in questionnaire? We'll give the questionnaire to the subject, to the respondent, and we want them to answer the questions which are there in the questionnaire. Okay, or to select the specific responses, like I told you, Likert scale. 5 options are there. Select the appropriate option. To select a specific responses like this from the list of alternative, these are the alternatives. Participant responses and score. Whatever answers they will give, guys, please keep yourself on a mute. Okay, so we need to convert those answers, those responses into the score, and the scores can be compared readily with the standardized sample in order to see how much deviation is there from the standard. This is a standard, and this is a negative deviation and positive deviation. Rating scale, the third one is a rating scale. So self rating scales, okay, the self rating scale. So we will rate ourselves only, and this provide the information on persons internal experiences and subjective experiences. Internally, what person is thinking, and subjective means what? The personal opinion about something. My subjective assessment could be different, and your assessment could be different. That's a subjective. It depends upon person to person. So self rating scale provide the information about the internal and subjective experiences which are difficult to assess through other means. What's going on inside the brain of the person? Interview, questionnaire, everything is okay, but through that you can't go inside the person's mind. So for the best one is the self rating scale. This should be used in addition and subsequent to other assessment techniques. It is not that alone you are using self-assessment rating. You are using additionally to interview, to questionnaire. Okay. Advantage of using this rating scale, it's a easy to use. Useful, usefulness for a wide range of populations and problem, for a wide range of issues and a wide range of public, the diverse public, you can use this technique. Objective scoring procedures, whatever responses you are getting, you can give them the score and then you can do the total scoring also. Validity for assessing the targeted behavior problem, and the low cost of administration. You simply need to check the self rating. That's it. So what we discussed till now is like a self report method, and now we'll be talking about direct observation. Direct behavioral observations, a procedure in which the observer, normally a clinical psychologist, observe the subject in the sense the person under study. So what happens here? Observer observe the subject, systematically records the behavior. It's not only about the observation, observe of the subject, but also recording the behavior systematically, so that it can be used later on for the assessment as well as treatment. Develop the operational definition of targeted behavior of interest. So whatever our targeted behavior is there, okay, so it will also help us to define the operational definition, that what actually the problem is. Because we know in mental illness there are several symptoms are there. Normally 7 to 8 types of symptoms are there, and out of that 3-4 symptoms are visible for a longer period of time, then we'll consider in that into the mental disorder. So as you can understand, all people are not referring, like they are not showing that all the symptoms. So we need to do the operational definition. We need to give the operational definition of the variable under study with respect to the symptoms which are visible, and ignoring the other symptoms which are not there. That's what our operational definition, which clearly defines what exactly the problem is. Through direct observation, clinical psychologists can observe and quantify the problem behavior. The characteristics, the behavior is observed in the natural setting. Just a minute. Okay, the behavior is observed in a natural setting. Behavior is recorded. Sorry. Behavior is recorded or coded as it occurs. Systematic recording of the behavior. Impartial, objective observers record behavior. The observer should not be biased, should not be subjective. Subjective means his or her opinion should not be included in that. So the observer must be impartial, unbiased, and objective. Okay. In this way, the observation need to be recorded. Behavior is described in a clear, crisp terms, requiring little or no inference by the observer. So whatever the behavior is, describing, that should be in a clear and a crisp language. Advantages: this observations does not rely on a client self report. Here client self report is not there. It provides accurate measurement of the problem behavior and can suggest the strategies for intervention. It does not rely on the client self report, because in self report there is a possibility that client may lie. So advantage here, we are not relying on the client self report. It provides the accurate measurement of the problem, and strategies for intervention can also be, like, suggested by this method. Disadvantages: it requires diligence and preparation. Lot of nitty-gritties are there, so one need to be really prepared for the observations. The biggest problem: observer may also show response biases. Most of the time it is seen that observers, they are not able to separate themselves from their opinion. Reactivity is another potential problem. And finally, it can be a costly and a time consuming process. Some of the occurrences may not be open to observations. Everything we can't observe. Person is not available for observation 24/7. Problem of the past cannot be studied by means of observation. What happened last year? Now that is the past. Now today I can't observe that. I can observe the present only. I can't observe the past or future. As observations are not free from bias, hence there is a lack of reliability of the measurements, and challenging to collect the data while participating. When you are participating, observing, two types of observing. One, you are away from the subject, and from outside you are observing. Number two, you are with the client and you are directly observing by sitting in front or in a group. You are actively involved with the client. In such cases, during the observation, it is not possible to collect the data, to make a record. There are three types of observation. Naturalistic observation occur in everyday environment, like a natural setting, that's a home and a school. Analog observations, if impractical, conduct observation in artificial setting. If it is not practically possible to do the natural observation, then one can do the observation in artificial setting. Self monitoring, people observe themselves and carefully record the frequency of certain behavior. Self monitoring means self observation. Unobtrusive observation, that is also known as a natural observation. What here we saw, naturalistic observation is basically unobtrusive observation. The most direct way to assess the client behavior is through natural observation. This is the setting in which behavior typically occurs. Naturalistic observation in a school, classroom, playground, office, home. That's our natural setting. And how we behave in our natural setting, that is done through the naturalistic observation. The two types, sometime when you're doing a natural observation, sometime the clients know that you're getting observed, sometime you don't know that you're getting observed. Okay. Most of the time in natural observation, client don't know that they are being observed. Essential elements: observation and recording of behavior at the time of occurrence in natural setting. You're observing, at the same time you are recording in a natural setting. The use of trained objective observer. The observer must be trained, and the subjective means bias free. The observer is not biased. The observer is a neutral. This requires only a minimum amount of inference by the observer coder. Minimum amount of coding is inference and coding is needed, because you are recording what you are seeing. The goals of this natural observation is to describe the behavior as it occurs in natural setting without artificially in the lab. Number two, to describe the variable that are present in relation amongst them. The goal is to describe the variable which are present. Types of this natural observation: behavior trace studies, and the second one is this disguise observation. So these are the two types of observations. So let's see this one, behavior trace. This involves finding things people leave behind and interpreting what they mean. Behavior trace. So involves the finding the things people leave the behind. Say for example, you went to the party or you are organizing a party. So once party is over, then how that hall or that place you are living, whether you are cleaning it or not, whether things are arranged properly or not. So all those things, this will be observed, and this is nothing but the behavior trace studies, and based on this the interpretation is done. Disguised observation, here the subject do not know that they are being observed, and you will make the direct observation of them. The next one is a analog. So what is happening? Analog observation method, these are designed to stimulate the conditions of natural environment. The moment you have the simulation, it's a artificial, it's a laboratory environment. You try to create the natural environment in the lab, in the laboratory. These are designed to provide highly structured and controlled setting. The setting is structured and controlled as it is in the lab, so you can control it, in which behavior of concerns are likely to be observed. So in the lab, we are observing the behavior. These assessments are like an indirect measurement procedure because it is done in a lab. not direct. That is a natural. This observation might occur in a clinic or in a laboratory. That's what analog and natural setting. And the last one is a self monitoring. So in a self monitoring, the participant is trained in observing and recording their behavior. Here we need to train the subject, train the person how to observe and how to record the behavior. Then only it is done. In self monitoring, clients assume the responsibility for assessing the problem behavior. Here, client take the responsibility for assessing the problem behavior in the setting in which it naturally occurs. Because it's a self monitoring. So, in my day to day activity, I am observing my behavior. So, that is happening in a natural setting only. Self monitoring can be used to assess the private responses that are not open to observation. As I said, 24/7, it is not possible to observe anyone because there are some private moments. Okay, so those private responses which are not open for observations are done with the help of self monitoring. Advantages: it's a low cost and it's a efficient method. Its utility: a measurement of covert or private events, like we discuss here. A private response is not open for observations. That can be done with the help of self report, self monitored. It produces highly accurate measurement because the moment that behavior is happening, same time it is getting recorded by the person who is actually involved in the behavior. Disadvantage: the reliability and validity is a major concern. It's difficult to train the impartial observers, coders. We need to give the training to the people who will self monitor, and it is difficult. It is we should not expect that they will be impartial. Obviously they will be biased. Some clients become forgetful and sloppy, so they don't pay attention towards this. They forget to record. They underreport the undesirable behavior, the behavior which are not desired, so they will not report that. For example, smoking. Wait, Tanuja, let me finish this. Yeah, okay, fine. Yes, Tanuja, please ask your question. You raise the hand. Fine. The next is a psychophysiological assessment. This is the last point of second unit. Okay, so these are like a signaling, entails a direct recording of physiological observed changes in the body. For example, increase in the heart rate and surges in a brain activity. So psychophysiological assessment means direct recording of physical changes in a body, like my heart rate increases, blood pressure increases, brain activity, there is a surge in a brain activity. The psychophysiology refers to measurable changes in the nervous system that reflects emotional and psychological events. Because of some psychological or emotional event, whatever activities are happening in our brain, so those are being measured. The measurement may be taken directly from the brain or from the other part of the body. Neuroimaging technique we are using, so EEG, MEG, PET CT scan, fMRI, and all those things. See, this is like an X-ray of the brain. You can see this is the X-ray, this is the MRI, this is MRA of the brain, and this is the PET scan of the brain. So these are the various neuroimaging techniques, and this help us to do the psychophysiology assessment of the brain of the person. Okay, so this is the unit number 2. So we are done with this. Now if it is okay, then we can go for unit number 3, but not the entire one. Entire unit number 3 we can't cover today, but yes, we can cover some portion of that. Yes, please ask your question. Delia Sarkar.
Sir, can you please share the brain image again, sir?
Yes,
Sir, how can I join for the next session, sir?
you can join, like you can download this app,
Okay.
and in that app you will get the psychodiagnostic course, and you can click on that course, and then you will get the payment link. You can make the payment, and then you can like have the access to all the live classes, recording sessions, PPTs.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Recording normally uploaded within 24 hours, and PPT I upload like in the morning. Like today class will get over, tomorrow morning I'll upload the PPT. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
PPT is loaded in that app only or in this WhatsApp group?
No PPT will be shared on the WhatsApp. PPT will be available for entire subject. 16 PPTs will be available in psychodiagnostic course, and today's these two PPTs will be available in Mission MAPC course. In Mission MAPC, by paying 99 rupees, you can access the recording of all 13 subject first lecture, like two PPTs and video recording of all 13 subjects, plus whatever the free session we are conducting. Like very soon we are going to conduct the session on exam strategy. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Okay guys, so what we'll do, we'll start the chapter number 3, though we'll not be able to take the complete chapter, but few points we will discuss today. We'll discuss now. I'm presenting that third chapter on Google Meet. Yes, it is shared. And now I'm presenting that third chapter in the app. So third chapter, like 1/4 is ready, so I'm taking that now, and rest I'll take tomorrow. Okay. Yes. So third chapter is assessment in clinical psychology. As you can see, this is a block 1, unit 3, assessment in clinical psychology. So clinical assessment is the evaluation and measurement So when we talk about the assessment, what we are doing, we are evaluating and measuring. What we are evaluating and measuring? The psychological, biological, and social factors. The psychological factors are like a depression and everything. Biological is like a heart rate and all those things. Social is like a emotional intelligence and those kind of a things. So we are evaluating and measuring these factors in an individual with a possible psychological disorder. The person who is having some problem, some mental problem is there. So we evaluate and measure these factors in the clinical assessment. Psychological assessment, this refers to the procedure by which clinical psychologists, they use the psychological test, observations and interviews to develop a summary of clients' symptoms and problems. What we discussed, the various psychological tests, observations and interviews, and with the help of this we develop the psychological profile of the client, in which the symptoms and problems will be there. The kind of technique used in assessment vary in both their focus and degree of structure. When we talk about the assessment, so that assessment, there is a focus and there is a structure to that data collection. This assessment tool focus on brain structure, functioning, intellectual functioning and personality of the person. So when we want to understand the psychological profile of the person, clinical profile of the person, then we do the brain functioning, intellectual functioning and the personality of the person. And this assessment tool mainly focus on this. So there are number of tools available, n number of tools are available. So depending on the question to be answered by the assessment, the psychologist selects the most appropriate tool. Like the way doctor selects the medicine, which medicine need to be given to you. When we visit the doctor, n number of medicines are available, but doctor will give you the proper medicine to you. In the same way, the clinical psychologists need to select the most appropriate tool so that the question will be answered. Please hold your question. Let me finish this, then I will take the question. Another 5 or 7 minutes I will take. The goals, establishing the goals of assessment, the goals of this psychological assessment. Establishing a diagnosis for someone with the physical disorder. A person who is having a physical disorder, we need to do the diagnosis of that person. To determine the intellectual capacity of the person. Again, predicting the person's appropriateness for a particular job. So whatever the job profile is there, we need to check whether person is, person is appropriate for that job or not. That also we can find out with the help of this assessment. Evaluating whether someone is mentally competent to stand a trial in a judicial matters. It is important that person should be mentally fit in order to start the trial. Three basic concepts that help to determine the value of clinical assessment, that is the reliability, validity and standardization. So what is the reliability? Degree to which a measurement is consistent. Are the responses are reliable or not, they are replicable or not. Validity, degree to which technique measure what is designed to measure. Is it measuring the accurate things or not? And standardization is application of certain standards to ensure consistency across different measurement. Standardization, the process should be standard, process should be consistent, so that is taken care by the standardization. Addiction assessment, assessment of the addiction. Now the treatment for the drug and alcohol. Okay, so treatment for drug and alcohol normally starts with the assessment of addiction. To treat, you must know at what level that addiction is. What is the severity of the addiction? The purpose of the assessment, to determine whether addiction is there or not at the first place, whether person is addicted or not. That's what we need to find out. The extent of the addiction, is it a mild, severe? Whether there are co-occurring condition along with the addiction, is there are any sign of a depression or anxiety or any other psychological issue? And this assessment provide us, they assist us to develop the treatment plan. So these are the purpose of assessment. During the initial stage of addiction assessment, client will be asked, the psychologist first, they will ask the question, are you currently under the influence of drug or alcohol? Are you in a normal state or you are under the influence of drug or alcohol? Psychologists will also check what substance, drug, alcohol they have taken recently or immediately in the past. Psychologists also need to understand the quantity consumed and at what frequency. So client is consuming how much quantity and at what frequency, the drug or alcohol or smoking, whatever it may be. Knowing the answer to this type of question, whatever we discuss, once psychologists know the answers, it allows the addiction specialist to form a customized treatment plan to help the addict person on their recovery path. So in order to treat the person, the addicted person, whatever the points we discuss, the the psychologist, the addiction specialist must aware of this, and based on this only the treatment plan will be made. The next topic is FAMHA, that is a functional assessment of mental health and addiction. So this topic we'll see tomorrow. Okay, so that's it from my side for the day. If you have any question you can ask. Rashmi raised the hand in the app. So yes, Rashmi, what is your question? I believe by mistake she must have done that. Fine. Yes, guys, I'm open for the question. If you have any question, any doubt, you can ask. Else, we'll end the session here. Okay.